Put me in charge of technology.
Okay, next question, please.
Do you think that the fact that prisoners' identity is taken from them when they go into a prison environment largely contributes to aggression?
A prisoner is stripped of his identity
Yeah.
when he goes into that environment. So he's dehumanised. And I think if you're dehumanised, it's part of that stress that contributes to you having rising aggression. I'm just reading a book right now about Brian Keenan, who was kidnapped in Beirut and held in prison for 4.5 years. And, you know, he's a reasonable guy, sensible guy, he's a teacher at a university out there. And the kidnappers are periodically coming in and they're beating him up. Now he knows, they've dehumanised him, all that stuff, and they're periodically coming in and they're beating him up. And he knows if he resists them beating him up, or if he fights back, they're going to beat him up 10 times worse. So every time they're beating him up, he's telling himself not to react. But it gets to the point where he feels so dehumanised by the conditions that he's been put through. You know, he's chained to a wall, he's blind, they put a blindfold on him, you know, he's considered less than human by these extremists out there. It gets to the point where he feels that he's about to snap, and he knows he's about to snap, but he knows if he attacks one of the guards, they're going to beat him up 10 times worse. And it's like it gets to the point where he's watching the stress rise within himself, and he can't stop it. And the guard comes in to beat him up, and he grabs the guy and strangles him up against the wall, and all hell breaks loose, and they come in and they absolutely just beat the living daylights out of him. But again, it's part of that stress level. The dehumanisation contributes to that stress level, which causes a normal human being to snap. You know, he wasn't someone with violent tendencies, he was a teacher at university. But that's a good example of how that environment can cause the brain to snap. Right, next question, please.
Okay, mine's not a question, it was more kind of, can you tell us more another story, like the worst situation you've kind of seen?
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Can I tell you more stories about what?
Just like your experience.
Oh, my
Like,
experience?
Yeah, or like a really, or a fight or something. Or
How about it tells you like how we ended up there,
yeah, okay.
rather than the
Is
like.
that okay?
Yeah. I mean, I went to America as a young person, model student, did business studies in university, made all this money in the stock market, went to my head, I was only in my 20s, and I started throwing raves and having people import ecstasy from Holland. SWAT team come, and I end up in this jail that's got the highest rate of death in America. I knowingly broke the law, I take full responsibility for all the stupid choices I made on drugs, so I completely deserve to be punished, and it did me a lot of good. But from what I saw, from all the prisoners around me, young people come in, get recruited by the gangs, and they get out as enemies of society. And it's by design in America. In America, because it's a business model, they don't give them any rehabilitation, they don't give them any education. They allow them to further criminalise themselves, and they allow it to be completely flooded with drugs. Because they know these guys have got no chance in life when they get out, and they're going to come right back. It keeps the profits going, the $50,000 a year is the taxpayers' money going for these private prisons. And the politicians and the legislators, they're taking massive contributions from the private prisons to increase sentences, to tighten laws, and to introduce new laws, so their bunks keep getting filled. And because of this right now, 1 in 100 adults is in prison in America. You've got 1 million arrests a year right now for marijuana, 9 out of 10 petty possession. It can happen to anyone under these laws that they've got out there to fill all of these prisons. And for African Americans, it's 1 in 20 some adult is in prison, more than is in college, and more than was held under slavery before slavery was abolished. And Cameron's saying, we're looking to the private prisons now to come over from America and rehabilitate our prisoners. And that's what it's all about. It's all about money. You know, he's got, whichever political party wins the election, they've both got contributions from the private prisons, so they keep the contracts going. It's just a big scam on the taxpayers, because in the long run, it's a massive financial burden. The jail I was at, because of all the deaths and violence and murder and medical negligence, they've paid out over 50 million in lawsuits. And that's taxpayers' money, and there's 50 million lawsuits pending. So it's a disaster for the taxpayers, but they don't realise that. God said to me, the world has got no idea what's really going on in here. Another story I can give you is my race riot story, because that is an example of aggression. in prison. But stop that and start restarting, and we'll do it from the beginning with the race riot.
Sorry, can we start? I'm a touch, I just don't want to break it because it's political.